5 moves, 1 man, 0 logical explanation. This court is about to prove that Michael Jackson's most iconic movements were not just hard, they were physically engineered to be impossible to copy. And the worst part, your brain already thinks you can do them. Einstein, Brainy, we ready?
Ready. Born ready. Which is exactly the problem.
Here is the promise. By the end of this trial, you will understand the exact science behind 5 Michael Jackson moves, why your body will fail every single time you try them, and why your brain lied to your face the moment you watched them. The 45-degree lean, the moonwalk, the toe stand, the side glide, the multi-rotation spin. Court is in session. Let's move.
Part 1, the 45-degree lean.
Smooth Criminal, 1988. Michael Jackson tilts his entire body forward at 45 degrees and holds it like a statue while the music keeps going. No wires in the shot, no CGI. And if you tried this at home, you would be on the floor before you hit 30 degrees. Einstein, talk to me.
The ankle joint is the problem. To hold a 45-degree lean, the ankle must generate enough forward torque to counterbalance gravity pulling on the entire mass of the body. That torque demand exceeds what human tendons and calf musculature can safely produce. You are not just asking for strength, you are asking for a force output the joint was not designed to sustain. In an average adult, the ankle fails before the angle is achieved.
And the second you see it, your mirror neurons start misfiring in your favor. Mirror neurons fire both when you perform a movement and when you observe one. So, watching Michael lean, your brain runs the simulation, and the simulation feels completely fine. No strain, no failure. Dunning-Kruger walks in and tells you that 3 seconds of visual experience is the same as 3 seconds of physical training. It is not. It is not even close.
So how did he actually do it?
U.S. Patent number 5255105, filed in 1993. Michael Jackson and 2 collaborators patented a specialized boot with a slot machined into the heel. A retractable peg rose from the stage floor and locked into that slot. The gravitational load transferred through the heel, through the peg, into the stage structure itself. The ankle was bypassed entirely. The floor held him. His body simply had to commit.
He did not beat gravity. He outsourced it to the floor, and nobody noticed.
And that is the performance layer that cannot be patented. Even locked into that peg, Michael's body was a single rigid unit. No compensation in the shoulders, no drift in the arms, no tension visible anywhere. Most people, even with the mechanical assist, would fight the lean instinctively. Their nervous system would override, their upper body would resist. Michael surrendered completely and made total trust look like total power.
Patent for the physics, a lifetime of training for everything else. The lean is not one trick, it is 2. And the crowd only ever sees one of them.
Part 2, the moonwalk.
May 25th, 1983. Motown 25. He grabs the hat brim, glides backward, and the world breaks. The moonwalk. Most imitated move in history. Most successfully imitated? Never. Einstein, what is actually happening?
The mechanics are precise. One foot is flat on the floor, fully weighted. The other is on tiptoe, completely unweighted. The flat foot slides backward. The tiptoe foot stays fixed. Weight transfers, roles reverse, cycle repeats. That is it. But here is what makes Michael's version physically distinct from every imitation. His head travels at near constant velocity, almost zero fluctuation, and his feet slide at roughly twice the speed of his head. That ratio is not accidental. It is the signature of total weight elimination on the sliding foot. Any pressure, any friction, any partial loading on that foot, the head bobs, the ratio breaks, the illusion collapses.
And the illusion is neurological warfare. Your visual system reads locomotion from posture cues, forward lean, arm swing, hip orientation. Michael maintains every single forward motion signal while his feet go backward. Your brain receives two contradictory inputs and resolves the conflict by deciding the floor is moving. It is not hallucination. It is your visual cortex doing exactly what it was built to do and getting beaten by superior information design.
Superior information design. I am using that sentence forever.
The Dunning-Kruger setup on the Moonwalk is particularly vicious because the mechanism is teachable. You can watch the slow motion breakdown, you can understand the foot positions, you feel informed. But comprehension lives in the prefrontal cortex and execution lives in the cerebellum. And those two regions are not on speaking terms until you have logged serious repetitions. Understanding the move does not move your body. Your motor memory does, and yours has not been built.
The average person attempting the moonwalk either fails to fully unweight the sliding foot, producing drag, or bends the knee of the sliding leg, producing visible oscillation. Michael's knees stayed soft but still. His torso held its height. The sliding foot was weightless and flat throughout. Every variable controlled simultaneously. That is not a technique you borrow. That is one you build over thousands of hours until it becomes automatic.
He made the impossible automatic, which made it look easy, which is the cruelest trick in the history of performance. Next.
Part 3, the toe stand.
Underrated, criminally underrated, the toe stand. Michael rises onto the literal tips of his toes, not the balls, the tips, holds it, and then keeps performing with his arms and upper body like he is standing on solid marble, in loafers. Einstein.
The physics here are unforgiving. In a proper toe stand, body weight concentrates onto the distal phalanges, the tip bones of the toes, at the most mechanically disadvantaged position the foot can occupy. The safe way to achieve this, if safe is even the right word, is through a controlled micro-hop, a brief ballistic moment where momentum carries the body upward and body weight drops to near zero at the peak, allowing the foot to lock into position before weight returns. A slow roll up into the stand forces the ankle and toe joints to sustain the full gravitational load throughout the transition. That is where tendons fail. That is where ankles roll.
He hopped into it?
He did. Fast, controlled, nearly invisible, and then held it in loafers, which provide zero structural support compared to ballet point shoes, which are specifically engineered to distribute pressure across the entire toe box. Michael's footwear transferred the entire load onto approximately 2 square centimeters of toe surface.
And here is the psychological wall that most people hit before the physical one. The moment a normal person achieves a toe stand, the entire nervous system redirects to one priority: survival. Every available neuron is managing balance. There is nothing left for performance. The arms stop. The expression freezes. The music keeps going without them. Michael's balance management was so deeply automated from years of repetition that it required no conscious attention, which freed his conscious performance layer to keep working. He was running 2 programs at full capacity simultaneously.
And because it looks like something a child does on their way to grab a snack from a high shelf, nobody gives it the fear it deserves.
Exactly. Low perceived difficulty, maximum Dunning-Kruger confidence. The moment you try it in real shoes, on a real floor, you learn very quickly that what looked like standing is actually an athletic event.
The toe stand, deceptively brutal, consistently disrespected,
and responsible for more rolled ankles than any move in the playlist. Moving.
Part 4, the side glide.
The side glide is the move that people forget exists and then remember exists when they try to explain why they cannot do it. Michael translates laterally across the stage with no visible stepping, no hip sway, no shoulder shift. He just moves sideways, like the laws of physics filed a noise complaint and he ignored it. Brainy, this one starts with you.
The side glide is a different kind of optical deception from the moonwalk, and the distinction matters. The moonwalk exploits your visual system's reliance on forward motion cues. The side glide exploits a gap. Your visual system has almost no framework for reading lateral motion. You evolved to track things approaching or retreating because that was survival relevant. Things moving sideways in a controlled glide with no postural cues? Your brain has no pattern for that. It just registers wrong and files it under impossible.
The mechanism is a heel-to-toe weight transfer executed laterally, while the hips remain level and absolutely still. The body's default program for lateral weight transfer is the hip shift. The pelvis moves in the direction of travel to redistribute mass over the new support foot. Michael suppressed that default completely. Hips stationary, weight moving. That is not natural. That is a conscious override of an automatic movement pattern sustained across multiple steps while performing at full output.
And here is what most people miss. The arms and the head are not just moving, they are moving deliberately as attention traps. The upper body activity is vivid and expressive, which is exactly where your eyes go. And while your visual attention is on the arms, the feet are doing the impossible, quietly below the frame of your focus. It is misdirection built into choreography.
He hid the trick inside the performance of the trick.
The continuous muscular engagement required throughout the side glide is significant. The feet, ankles, calves, and hips are all actively working against the body's own defaults. It is a sustained, controlled fall in a lateral direction, caught and redirected with each subtle weight transfer. Nothing is passive. Nothing is resting.
And because it looks slower and simpler than the moonwalk, people underrate it going in. The Dunning-Kruger cliff on the side glide is the tallest of the 5 because the move that looks the most ordinary requires the most deliberate suppression of automatic behavior. You are not learning something new. You are unlearning something wired into you. That is significantly harder.
The side glide. Lateral, illegal, visually weaponized, and built to make your brain feel stupid the moment you try it. Final movement. Let's close the case.
Part 5, the multi-rotation spin.
The spin. Michael launches into multiple full rotations, 4, sometimes 5, accelerating through each one and then stopping dead. On the beat, on a specific position. No stagger, no drift, no grabbing the nearest microphone stand for dear life. Einstein, how does a human body do this?
Angular momentum. When Michael initiates the spin, he generates rotational momentum with a strong push from one leg. As he pulls his arms in and compresses his body configuration, his moment of inertia, essentially his resistance to rotation, drops sharply. Because angular momentum is conserved, L equals I omega, rotational velocity spikes. The same physics operate in a figure skater pulling their arms in during a spin. More speed, no additional force applied. The acceleration is a consequence of geometry.
He gets faster by getting smaller.
Precisely. Now, the termination, the snap stop, is where the real demand lives. To stop at a specific rotational position on a specific beat, Michael had to apply a braking torque precisely calibrated to his current angular velocity at that exact moment. Too early by 1/8 of a rotation, and the stop is wrong. Too late, and he overshoots. The margin of error he was consistently hitting corresponds to what we measure in elite-level gymnastics. He was doing this inside a full concert performance with a screaming audience.
And the vestibular system is screaming the entire time. The semicircular canals in the inner ear detect rotational acceleration, and during multi-rotation spinning, they produce dizziness, nausea, and spatial disorientation as a feature, not a bug. It is the system working correctly. Dancers suppress this through spotting, fixing the eyes on a single point and whipping the head back to it on each rotation, which limits continuous canal stimulation. Michael's spotting was elite. His gaze was locked. His head was a weapon.
And the Dunning-Kruger catastrophe?
Maximum! Because everyone has spun. You spun as a kid. You have spun in your desk chair. The mirror neurons are not just firing, they are celebrating. Your confidence before trying a multi-rotation spin is sky high. And then you try 4 rotations and you walk directly into your own wall. The gap between recreational spinning and what Michael was doing is the gap between throwing a ball in a parking lot and pitching in the World Series. Same motion, incomprehensible difference in execution.
The stop alone requires proprioceptive precision that most people have never trained. You have to know, without looking down, exactly where your body is in space, at what rotational angle, at what velocity, in order to apply the brake at the right moment. That awareness is built through repetition until it becomes subconscious. It cannot be improvised.
This court is ready to close. 5 moves. 5 times the human body did something it was not supposed to be able to do in front of a global audience and made it look like a Tuesday afternoon. The lean, weaponized engineering. The moonwalk, weaponized perception. The toe stand, weaponized automation. The side glide, weaponized attention. The spin, weaponized physics. And every single time, your mirror neurons told you the same lie. I could do that. You could not. But now, you know exactly why. And knowing why is the difference between watching genius and understanding it.
The mechanics were learnable. The mastery was not.
He did not have better moves. He had better years.
Court adjourned.